welcome to another edition of the team previews for the 2026 season on Dad's Bet Baseball. I am Slippin' Jimmy here with you alongside my partner in crime, Mr. Adam Rosenberg, here for another team preview, and our guest this time, Ben Heisler, coming in from Kansas City. Ben, welcome to the show. Are you ready to talk some Chicago Cubbies today?
Of course. We were just talking before I hopped on that the first time on the Dad's Bet Baseball show, I feel like I've lived vicariously through Berg, through the show. I also feel like I haven't gotten my full street cred because I don't have the cool nickname next to my name and my Twitter handle.
Benny and the Bets, man. Benny and the Bets.
You got the X handle under there.
Yeah, it just felt like it would be a bit overkill if I was just like Ben Heisler, Benny Heis at Benny Heis. And they're just like, no, roll with it. But no, excited to talk a little Cubs. It's nice to go into a season feeling fairly optimistic. And then the season will happen, and we'll see if that ends up sticking around. Because
I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised because I feel like this is going to be a pretty optimistic episode. But before we dive in, let's just give a shout out, as always, to our sponsor, Hall of Fame Bets. Hall of Fame Bets, you can use the code DADS to get a 1-week free trial, as well as 50% off your first month. You want to look up Chicago Cubs players on Hall of Fame Bets right now? You can do that. You can go look up Alex Bregman if you want to try and research some futures on Hall of Fame Bets, because you're able to research players at any point during the season and in the offseason. You can use Hall of Fame Bets if you want to do some World Baseball Classic research right now. We've got the NCAA tournament coming up. Hall of Fame Bets has that as well. It's like a supermarket for different types of bets. You can just go down an aisle, pick the stats you want, boom, put it in their parlay optimizer, and you are good to go. So again, use that code DADS to get a 1-week free trial and 50% off your first month. All right, let's jump into one of my favorite American cities also, by the way. Got the chance to spend a nice long weekend there for Mother's Day last May. Chicago is a lovely place to be, especially in the spring and the fall and in the summer. But I've heard some Chicagoans say that it can get pretty hot there and pretty humid. Chicago Cubs, though, last season, 92-70. I feel like weirdly this kind of felt like a disappointment coming in with all the expectations with adding in Kyle Tucker and some of the money that they had spent last year. They did go over their win total for last season. They obviously did make the playoffs. They had some great moments during the season. This team started off actually red hot and was basically in first place comfortably in the division through the All-Star break. And then the Brewers decided to have the power of friendship.
I believe I have an episode of Dad's Bet Baseball where I said, "Oh, this is over. I'm super fine with this minus 150, guys." And it's absolute. I said, "Brewers aren't doing this. This is done." I said,
"Wish that wouldn't have happened before you and I put in every fucking exacta on the Cubs and the Cubs, the Cubs and the Tigers, no less." How does it lose? Well, it's when the Cleveland Guardians decide to also fuck up your shit in the other division. So. A lot of guys, though, that have come into this clubhouse and have left since last season. So first off, the big addition, Mr. Alex Bregman, 5-year deal coming in. Love that signing for him and for this team. Fills in a big gap that they were looking for Charlie Kirk's friend Matt Shaw to fill. That clearly didn't work out. So Bregman is going to be coming in there and hopefully bringing a lot more good vibes to that clubhouse. Also, Edward Cabrera, starting pitcher, somebody that we like quite a bit. We're going to talk about him. Don't forget about Shota Imanaga. So Shota was re-signed. I think we had projected him to go to the Giants about 6 different times, and then he
signed his tender. No one expected
immediately
that.
Signed his tender.
Yeah.
Cool. Back with the Cubs. I like that. Also bringing in a bunch of different relievers. They brought in Hunter Harvey, Phil Maton, Caleb Thielbar, Hobie Milner, Jacob Webb, and first baseman Tyler Austin. Obviously, the big loss was Kyle Tucker, but I really got the sense from most Chicago Cubs fans and writers by basically mid-September, it felt like he wasn't coming back anyways. So I don't necessarily know if there was a lot of love lost in that one. They also lost Brad Keller. Did like that signing for the Phillies. Andrew Kittredge. Michael Soroka went over to Arizona and played for the Snakes. Drew Pomerantz, Owen Cassie in that trade to the Marlins. So there was quite a bit of players. I actually was surprised at how many players came in and came out of this roster. But overall, they are right now, I think, at what is their win total? I believe it's 88.5. I'll have to double check and see if that has been updated. So 88.5 wins. Ben, you said you're feeling optimistic, and then the season starts. Tell me why you're feeling optimistic, though. I want to start on a positive note with the Cubs. What do you remember the most about 2025, and what gets you most excited for 2026?
Just to really quickly tag the feeling of optimism. I don't know if you guys know the classic Family Guy bit where they're dressed up for Halloween and Stewie goes, opening day this Halloween's been a bigger letdown than being a Mets fan. And it cuts the scene and goes, opening day, and here's the first pitch. And the season's over. For a long time, you have this sort of perspective going in as a Cub fan and thinking like, okay, what can go right and what will inevitably go wrong? And it's obviously a different time now, post World Series and post Theo coming in. God, it was, now talking about 14, 15 years ago when Theo Epstein came in, that whole new regime change took place. And really, with the exception of a couple years post breaking up the band, they've been fairly competitive. They haven't gotten to where they've needed to be, being a big market team in a winnable division most years. But Milwaukee has played out of their skis, and you talked about the run that they had in the second half. Cubs were having a very good season. Like, you think about everything that went right for them, Pete Crow-Armstrong has an MVP type start to the year, fizzles out a little bit in the second half, but still an elite center fielder. Seiya Suzuki had a monster first half. He tailed.
We remember.
We had him for RBI leader.
Mm-hmm. But really, everybody kind of lived up to their expectations on the back of the baseball card. Dansby had a decent year. Nico Hoerner had a great year. The defense for the team up the middle and really around the diamond was exceptional. Michael Busch ended up leading the team in home runs last year. Like, there was plenty of talent. And then you lose Justin Steele a couple weeks into the season. That was your opening day starter. That was your number one guy. Shota takes a major regression, giving up home runs, but overall the numbers in general don't look terrible for him. And then Cade Horton comes out of nowhere. We obviously was the number one prospect on the team, but the way he pitched in the second half was flat out remarkable. And I do think, while maybe that level isn't sustainable going into 2026, I still think he is a bona fide top of the rotation type starter. I think if you're asking me like how I define 2025 is that it was good. I would have liked to seen a little bit more consistency. And I think the most maddening thing about the Cubs is while the starting rotation was terrific, they threw tons of strikes. They played to their defense. It was almost like that's their market inefficiency now. Is like, well, we don't want to just chase after all the guys that throw really, really hard and try to strike everybody out. Like, we'll have strike throwers and we'll play exceptional defense behind them, and we'll just get outs and guys will be able to go a little bit longer. The bullpen was kind of makeshift, and it did not go well for the first couple months of the season. They sorted it out, and then they kind of just held on for dear life in September. But really, they only had one guy on their team that threw 100 plus, and that was Daniel Palencia. And then he's had some issues, especially with some of his health towards the back end of the season. So I don't know whether or not the bullpen, to my feeling, is completely fixed up. You mentioned some of the names that they added during the offseason, Phil Maton, Hobie Milner, but like Hobie Milner throws like 87. Jacob Webb, Hunter Henry's a really interesting guy if they are able to keep him healthy. That's been his biggest bugaboo. And then Matthew Boyd also had a career year. So a lot of positive things for Chicago. I'll be curious as to whether or not what happens to this team when they go in an offensive slump, because their pitching was good enough to keep them on for a while. But back ends of games, that was a big concern for me. And I just don't know if they've done entirely enough to separate themselves from Milwaukee in the division this year.
Well, they by the way, they also, one of their big additions, I forgot to even mention this, from coming into last season and why people were high on them, was Ryan Presley, who was not even on the team by the end of the season. So the guy that they had designated to be their closer and to really be a stalwart at the back end of the bullpen completely flamed out. I actually thought it was amazing overall. This team was still 11th in ERA from a bullpen standpoint for the entire season. Yeah. Expected ERA, they were like almost bottom third. They were. I almost had a memory of them being like a dumpster fire, but they were actually like okay on the whole. So I think, and Adam, I'll let you jump in here in a second, but like the additions in terms of like adding to this bullpen, I don't look at this team as like, man, they're starting from just basically a wasteland and they need a lot in order to improve this. I think they actually had some pieces there that, it's an area that they didn't necessarily have to improve a ton coming into this season, and it already looks like they're going to have some more depth in that area.
No doubt.
Yeah. Building on that, because they were, despite it felt like nobody hit on that team after the All-Star break. I mean, the way Pete Crow-Armstrong, and we were all PCA MVP guys, the way he like flamed out, it was like James Wood. It was terrible, but they still were 6th in home runs. They were 7th in runs scored. They still they got an elite season. We always liked Matthew Boyd. We got a great season out of Matthew Boyd. One of the things I do remember this team is, not to bring up bad memories. Like I remember, because I'm in a group text, CJ, with Benny and our friend Eric, and like all it is Benny and Eric throwing out these obscene numbers and me saying, "You guys are chasing numbers." But occasionally things work out away, and it's but it's actually like a very smart chat, but it's mostly like them getting excited about like, this guy's $1 billion to 1, and me being like, yeah, it's a donation, and they're like, whatever. But I don't know how Cade didn't win Rookie of the Year like that.
Speaking of sensitive subjects,
I don't. And I mean, and there's a lot of things to get excited about because, first of all, if he doesn't get hurt, I think that series that
I was just about to say this. I think he wins Rookie of the Year, and I think they win the Brewers series. Yeah,
that was a not fun 80-1 ticket to watch that leave behind. That was tough.
Well, it's that, and also like we were really high on Shota, and obviously so Shota had that hamstring injury, and so his velo was down. He doesn't really have his fastball's not his thing anyway,
right?
But he started. You could watch all of his stuff moved the opposite direction in his breaking ball because he's overcompensating. Yep. And despite having I think he had 6 walks in that first game in Japan. He still was 4th. He didn't qualify for whip leader. He was still 4th in the league in whip because he was just so elite then across the board on that. Didn't qualify enough. Like he was just behind Skubal. But I just think that the floor on this team is really high, and it's not obnoxious like the Dodgers or the Braves where it's like, I can't deny this lineup. I like a lot of the pieces on this team last year. And this is not my Brewers hater coming out, which is going to be a really fun episode to tape. But I just think that this team has a good vibe. Even Dansby Swanson came around at the end of the season. He's he is raking in spring training right now. He's got 19 plate appearances, 444, 447. He's got a dot. He's got it on his OPS, 308 WRC plus, 3 home runs, a 5% K rate. Like Dansby might be back. Like the Braves, the guy you guys signed from, the Vanderbilt Dansby Swanson, who went over to the Braves and raked, looks like he might be back. Who are you kind of? Well, who do you kind of like? Are there guys that you remembered betting on day to day, and there are the guys that you're kind of translating that into focusing on, keying in on this year?
It's a really good question. I think when you bring up the Cubs sort of in general, it's a high floor team. There's a lot of veterans, but they're not like an old bunch. Like they're not just guys that are just all in like their early to mid 30s. Like there's still some young quality talent, but I think you have a general idea, especially with that lineup of how they're going to end up. And even Bregman, who's now like in his early 30s, but still is on a 5-year contract. Is that going to necessarily age well? If I were betting on somebody to still have some consistency down the backstretch, it would be him, just because of how diligent he is.
He's also raking, by the way, in spring. He looks fantastic.
And Dansby also made a couple of changes. I don't think it's like the best shape of his career type thing, or I don't know if it's dad strength or whatever it is, but he does have a sort of this new rewired hitting approach. And so far it's nice to see in the spring. We'll see when it's 30 degrees in Chicago on opening day if that'll translate. But I don't know, like I would jump on guys like Ian Happ when they were in a streak. Like Ian Happ would get into these bunches where he'd go a month without hitting a home run, and then over a week he'd hit about 7. Yeah, he's a very. Everybody
became Adam Wainwright. It was great. It was if you know. But yeah, it's just. I totally know what you're talking about for Happ.
Yeah.
And he was always 5-1. He was always like an obscene number to hit a home run, like 5-1, 6-1, like really bonkers.
And for all the issues of the team in the second half, like Michael Busch lived up to the hype and more. Like I think his per marquee, like 806 OPS over his final 57 games. Hoerner, I always like to be able to go ahead and he was a good like hits plus runs plus RBIs type of play for me. I just like a lot of what they have. Now you're trying to figure out like, okay, well, who is going to be the guy that's going to try to pick up some of the slack for losing Tucker? You obviously have Bregman. You're going to see a lot more Moises Ballesteros. He's 22 years old, very good bat to ball skills. You don't want him anywhere near the field. Like Schwarber was always a guy when he played for the Cubs. You're like, I don't know how I feel about him in the field, and he would still make enough plays. Ballesteros anywhere near an outfield glove, I'm praying that
he's like your Castellanos, basically.
Yeah. And one other thing that we didn't even touch on is the career year that Carson Kelly put up.
Yeah. That was really low key, by the way, like really managed that. Like you got to credit Matthew Boyd Matthew Boyd's around, because like Carson Kelly's always been, from when he was in on the Rangers and he had a short stint with the Mariners and stuff. I've been a Carson Kelly guy. Like he had a great year.
Yeah. And I think him coming back and hopefully having Miguel Amaya healthy, I think they'll be able to split some more time and give him a little bit more rest, because he had moments too where he was just starting to fade, and Amaya just missed a bunch of games, but that's a guy that the Cubs are still big on over the stretch of the game. He was the starting catcher for them even when they signed Kelly. So those are the guys that I typically would lean on when I came to bet the Cubs, was who's in that streak, who's just seen the ball exceptionally well. PCA, actually, I know that the numbers weren't always good on him for lefty versus lefty matchups, but he still had pretty good slug against lefties too. And I feel like the numbers were usually, if you're going to go ahead and take a stab on a home run bet, depending on the ballpark, depending on how streaky he was, that was another guy to chase, especially in the early portion of the season.
No, definitely not in the second half.
No.
But in the early first half, I've got handigraphs up here, and I was surprised.
Put them on screen. Put it on.
I looked at the OPS, and I was just, I guess Ballesteros here is going to be an outlier, right? He only had 66 plate appearances, but it's a lot of red. So, and if you're not familiar here, like red is good, and there's a lot of red in this lineup coming into this season. I feel like the story in the offseason, like prior to the Bregman stuff, was how are they going to replace Tucker? And I'm looking up and down this lineup and going, I think this lineup is maybe as strong as the Dodgers. Like, I don't think that's a hot take at all to say that, especially with how old some of the Dodgers guys are. I think you could make a case that from a speed and from a power standpoint, no other lineup in the National League brings this day to day. Every single player that is on this lineup is essentially a 100 plus WRC plus player. Like, you literally don't have a below average player that you're going to be starting from day one. Plus, they also still have like some decent depth that they can call back on. Like, they have Amaya. If they decided to roll the Matt Shaw train again, like, okay, that's probably not the best case if you have to roll him out every week, but it's still somebody that is still young and was a highly touted prospect that could be able to do something. I forgot that Conforto and Chas McCormick were also on this roster. I don't know if they would really end up doing anything for them, but there is some depth from a just a lineup perspective on where they can go. I also was like surprised. Jameson Taillon had a good season last year. Like that was also kind of forgotten. He was
11-7, dude. That's crazy.
He had also, if I remember correctly, like had an excellent playoff start against the Brewers in Chicago too. So, you know, the one word that I would probably use to describe this team is depth. Like I just think from starting pitching, from bullpen, from lineup, this team can absorb injuries. And it's when you see a team that's got the ceiling, but also the depth, to me, that's where I start to look at, all right, I'm willing to play more of the types of futures on like World Series, NLCS, those types of things. And you still might be getting a better number preseason. Also, this is a very public team. So if they start out hot, you're not going to likely get the same types of prices. I don't want to steal your thunder, Adam, but there was definitely a few exactas that I was like, man, these look pretty tasty. And I made the same mistake falling for them last year, but I still feel really good about like Seattle and Chicago Cubs 100-1 right now. To bet that as an exacta, like that's a great fucking number.
I mean, look, if you're gonna, I've said this on a bunch of shit. Like full disclosure, like I'm really high on this Cubs team. I think this Cubs team can come out of the NL, and like we haven't even talked about Cabrera, and I want to definitely talk about him a little bit and and Ben and get your take. But like, I'm looking at this because I want to go. I'm going to Circa next week. Mariners to beat the Cubs plus 128-1. Cubs to beat the Mariners 110-1, like each way. And there are way more scenarios where I see those as those final two teams. And one of those reasons is I think a Cubs team that could take Matthew Boyd and turn him into an all-star is going to have a lot of fun with Edward Cabrera. And Edward Cabrera, by the way, looks great in the spring. 4 2/3 pitch, 0 ERA, 1.58 FIP, like a whip that doesn't exist, 0 bat. Like a guy who had walk problems has a under 0 whip, which is incredible. Expected batting average 105. I have him at 80-1 for wins leader because I think he's going to have the offense behind him to be able to do that, and he doesn't necessarily have to be the ace, but he's going to be able to. The problem that he had last year that he couldn't get to 6 is because he would get all those walks. But I trust this Cubs pitching staff. They didn't have walk problems with their pitchers. So I don't know. What are you thinking? Is Cabrera? I mean, when is Steele coming back? Like, there's got to be a lot of. You don't have to be pragmatic. There's a lot of good things to think about for this team.
Yeah, and I also want to get your perspective too at some point about whether or not this Cubs team, especially from the pitching side, like if there's just enough guys that can miss bats, like consistently. You have Cabrera now, that adds a whole new element to their starting rotation. But not a lot of guys in this rotation. I guess Horton throws hard, but he's 97, 97.
But he added a cutter? He added a pitch. I mean, Horton, I'm excited about. Like, keep going. I'm going to find it while you do this. Like,
so the depth in this starting rotation is it's probably going to be Boyd getting the opening day start. I don't know if they've made this
sinker. He added a sinker. So that's what he did. So
Horton, who did also a really good job of keeping the ball in the ballpark. Cabrera, Taillon now is your 4th guy, and then Shota as your 5. Like that's a really good place to be. Also being fully aware that these guys may miss a little bit of time. And then, what happens with Justin Steele when he comes back? I think the reports are that maybe towards second half of the season, he could come back. And then we'll see whether or not it would be hard to imagine anything besides using Justin Steele as a starter because he's been so good since he's come up in the league. But the crazy thing about Justin Steele is that he's really only a 2-pitch pitcher. And he's just been so good and so effective at changing things up and keeping hitters off balance that he hasn't really needed to develop that 3rd pitch. But maybe, you keep him in the bullpen and make sure that he gets fully healthy. And he is a 2-pitch guy, and that makes him even more of a weapon. Or maybe he's an opener. Like there's a lot of mix and match that Chicago can do here. And I'm sure at some point one of these guys is going to miss time. I mean, remember, Matthew Boyd's innings limits, or he didn't have a limit per se, but he went way above where he had been historically over his career over the last several years last year. So I'm imagining at some point Boyd's going to miss a little bit of time, given the amount of innings that he threw last year. But it's fun. Like, it's fun to see a team that is going to throw plenty of strikes. You're seeing actual baseball when you go and watch the Cubs. But I do have some concerns at some point, like especially come playoff time, that at some point when you need to miss bats, it's just not going to be this Cubs pitching staff that's going to be able to do it, with the exception of Cabrera, maybe Palencia in the bullpen if he's throwing strikes.
CJ, I mean, tell me something good that gets you there on this season. Because I agree, because that's a problem, because that's all you really need in the playoffs is
exactly
who's missing bats, and that's not what Horton does. He's just a really good. He's more of a Gavin Williams kind of guy, where he's like, I have a deep arsenal that can do that. We've seen that ceiling with Cabrera, but he's also not. Like, he's not the same as Luzardo, like with those Marlins guys who had flames. Like,
they'll generate plenty of weak contact, which again is fine, but you still you still want some missed bats, especially come playoff time. And I just don't know if there's enough on this Cubs team.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I'm looking up now. I was just trying to pull up on StatCast if I saw any Cubs pitchers that ranked even in the top 30 for whiff rate. Just overall whiff rate. And I'm pretty sure the answer to that is no. And that, which is funny, because the previous tab that I was on, I'm looking at what their projected starting rotation was, and I'm saying to myself, I don't think this team really needs to go out and get a starter. Like last season, I felt like at the beginning of the season, obviously everybody was floating the Sandy rumors, and at the deadline, I think, it was a little bit of probably a wet fart for the Cubs at the deadline. Like, people were not super pumped about Michael Soroka being the big pickup. Yeah. But like, assuming this rotation's healthy, it's a really good balance of Boyd, Cabrera, Horton, Imanaga, and Talion as your fifth starter. However, playoff time, like you don't have a starter there that can just like throw heat. It's not anybody that is going to be able to blow past guys. I thought it was also interesting last season. Cubs actually had one of the best records against right-handed pitching. Whenever they played right-handed pitchers, they were 73 and I believe they're 73 and 47. And you're nodding your head, Ben, because you're like, this probably doesn't surprise me in the slightest. They were under 500 when they played left-handed pitching, and they were also one of the team. They were a bottom feeder. They had one of the best records in all of baseball against teams that were under 500. They were just below 500 when they were playing teams above 500. Now, don't know if that really translates to anything from the sort of ceiling for them this season. But I was trying to see as some other like season bets here, because I like this lineup so much coming out of the gate. Like, is there any guys that I would try to come to bat here in terms of like RBIs? First off, prices necessarily weren't as good as I was probably hoping for them to be. Like, you can get Suzuki at plus 220 for 100 plus. If you want to get Michael Busch at plus 320, you can. His problem is that he leads off. So you're going to be trying to back a guy leading off to also hit 100 plus RBIs. PCA, his price actually was the one that I thought was the most interesting. He's still batting or projected to be batting fifth, and you're going to get him at 3-1 for 100 plus ribbies this year. So I did, like, if I'm looking to just go for a guy on just runs batted in, I'd probably be looking at that PCA number at 3-1. The other one that I thought was interesting just from like a team future perspective is I like the head-to-head markets. I think those are always fun to play. You can get them actually at a better price to have more wins than the Mets this year at minus 105 over the Mets, which are actually favored in that market. Just saying, I think this team is better constructed to win more regular season games based on their starting pitching and lineup staff than the Mets. So if I'm looking for any prices in terms of like the Mets actually are favored in a lot of different markets over them, and I don't necessarily think that is correct either.
Well, you guys were talking about Dansby before. Where does he come in as far as a possible 100 RBI guy? Because if let's say you slot him in, he hit 7th a lot of last year, but Council will move him up in the lineup if they feel like he's producing. Maybe he gets the 5 spot behind Bregman, which could be a really intriguing spot. I don't know if I necessarily trust somebody like Ian Happ to drive in that kind of amount, but maybe Dansby, especially if there's a little bit more of that swing and miss is gone and you're starting to see a little bit more slug, like the old Dansby that we became accustomed to from a few years ago. Maybe that's in. I'm going back to it, Berg. I'm chasing after the big numbers again, but
I mean, the thing for him is like, was he not 7th?
Opportunity.
Look, I think Dansby's the kind of person who takes the leap forward on this. I also wonder, will Council tinker with the lineup and stuff? I mean, see, to your point about Busch, I mean, Kyle Schwarber led off for a lot of the year and he was RBI leader. I mean, it's super. Ohtani could easily be an RBI leader and he leads off. It's kind of, he has that combination. And if your bottom of your order is guys like Dansby and Happ, who are going to be able to get on there, then suddenly there's something happening. I don't know. I mean, if I have to stand out, a lot of these guys are very public because they're off of great years. Like Dansby to me seems like the guy to buy if you could find a way to buy him. I don't think he's winning MVP. I don't think he's hitting 30 home runs, but I think that if you could find a solid band on him, I think that he to me seems like a day-to-day. He's the guy who I'm going to be targeting a lot. Even though you're going to get good value because he's going to bat 6 or 7, so he's going to have less at bats than everybody else.
Yeah, and by the way, for Michael Busch, 90 RBIs last year, and he still didn't play in a ton of games with lefty starters. They tried to use Justin Turner for a handful of those games. It wasn't necessarily the ideal scenario for him, but he still finished 3rd on the team in RBI, and then Happ and then Swanson, but behind them. But crazy to think that Kyle Tucker, with how hot he started for this team, just 73 RBI last year. Just weird to think about given where he was and then how much of a
we got to talk about that elephant. We got to talk about it. We haven't talked about it as we get down to the last third here.
Well, the only thing I was going to just say on Kyle Tucker, and you can jump in, Bert, but like, I remember losing money day to day on Kyle Tucker quite a bit on betting some of his RBIs in that first half, even when he was as good as he was, because honestly, Suzuki was the guy that was just driving in everything. It seemed like every night. Like was Suzuki the RBI leader going into the All-Star break? It was right around that. Yeah, he was like
when he got hurt. Because we had him and we had Pete and we had Ellie, and at one point we were like, "Oh, what is going on here?"
I remember like the first month of the RBI leader roller coaster last year was me being pissed off at Wilmer Flores every day because he had like 2 games where he had 8 RBI and then he had like 4 RBI in the next one, and he literally sat on like 52 RBI as RBI leader for like 4 weeks, and then Suzuki finally like caught up to him. Obviously, that didn't pan out, but. Yeah, I mean, the Kyle Tucker stuff, I mean, it was weird how that all sort of ended and played out. Like, I mean, I guess I'm trying to figure out like where did things go wrong with Kyle Tucker? Like, did he want to even play baseball in Chicago? Like, it seemed like he didn't even really have a desire to do that. And that's maybe another reason why we're just so high on the vibes on this team as well, as kind of addition by subtraction there.
Yeah, the indication he was hurt. Like I don't want to completely back the bus on Tucker. Like he was hurt.
He's always hurt.
But he's always hurt. And the first half of the season, like I remember conversations in Chicago about like if you're going to sign a guy, if the Ricketts family is going to finally break open the checkbook and give out a massive contract to somebody, like Tucker's the type of guy. Like I plenty of articles, plenty of discussions about it. And then the second half came and he was fighting through something and then just never seemed right. And you're right, the vibes completely changed around him and the conversation around him. And then maybe at that point it was like, okay, Let me just get out of here and not put myself in a situation where I could be losing money in the offseason. So yeah, it's a different perspective. It's a different type of feel. And listen, anytime you get somebody like Bregman in there, that's going to completely up the vibes as well.
He's just a good club. I mean, there was the talk here in Boston when he signed with the Red Sox was Bregman's the type of player that makes you think that he's been on that team for 10 years.
Yeah.
The way he slides in. I do think that it's interesting. I mean, I have full disclosure. I have Bregman under 22.5 home runs. Wrigley is not a good ballpark for right-handed hitters. It's he's going to still battle wind and some stuff like that, but that's not what he needs to do. Like the thing that he does so well is that he hits oppo, he gets into the alleys, and he doesn't K. He's just also. How's anyone going to hate like a Rabbi Bregman, a nice Jewish boy playing baseball? Like he's our dude. So
he said something about Bregman that made me think about a player that I know you've enjoyed watching for quite some time. But do you remember that moment that Castellanos was on the Cubs at the trade deadline?
And then he
ended up signing that deal with Cincinnati. So that was the year I think he led Major League Baseball in doubles coming over. From
that's right.
And playing in Chicago, like he was loved. Like Chicago fans loved Castellanos, and the doubles just kept going again and again and again. Like I wonder if you can look at.
If I could find it, I would bet Bregman doubles. We had it last year, and then they got rid. I can't find that market. Have you found it? If you find it.
I haven't found doubles leader yet either. But we were on him for doubles leader, and that was another one. Like came
he was
out
crushing.
Right out of the gate. There's crushing it.
We had him at I believe 30-1, and then he got hurt, and then it was gone. But yeah, Bregman is a doubles king, and they got rid of that market. And it's the same way that like last year I liked Nico Hoerner for run leader. I would like Busch for run leader if I could find that market. I would love that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. I think that what we're talking about is like there's a lot more to like on this team. So I guess CJ, as we kind of bring it down, where do you kind of land on a couple of futures? That like I know there's stuff that I talked about. Like I have my long shot win future and my slight soft Bregman. It's a Bregman power fade. It's not a Bregman fade overall. But I mean, what do you are there any other markets or things that you've kind of looked at that you have for guys? We have a show to 12 wins in pocket, which I like. He hasn't looked totally right, but I think he's just too talented to not be. But what else, anything that you have, CJ? And then
I would say, and by the way, Ben, to your point on Castellanos, which this had to have just been electric. He was a one daughter, and
he was a dot that year. Yeah,
like he was really fucking good when he got to Wrigley. Other than the exactas, which we both had kind of talked about, and also knowing that I want to bet this team on being very good during the regular season. We also, the NL Central, we did our Pirates preview. We're high on the Pirates. It seems like literally everybody else is high on the Pirates at this point, which probably means that we're wrong. But I don't think that the rest of the division is going to be like Cubs should be able to do some bottom feeding again this year, as they were already really good at doing that last year. So I'm kind of looking at markets where I want to bet like ceilings in terms of where I can find them for wins. I really like right now you can get them at plus 330 for 95 plus wins on DK. So they are the eighth favorite in that market to get 95 wins. You have the Braves, which I think is hilarious, are ahead of them, as well as the Blue Jays and the Mets, all three teams that I would definitely take the Cubs over in that market. So 95 plus wins, I think that to me is, you can get them at 100 plus if you want to go and pay the 8-1, but
what are they for best record?
So best record is, hold on a second. Best record, I think I like this number not as much. I think they were like 20-1 for best record, which I think we also have the Mariners in pocket there. But that's, I'm trying to, my internet is slow as shit tonight, but I think it's 20-1 is where they're at on best record. So I'd look for a win band. I think there's another market also that you can find on them for 18-1. I'm seeing 18-1 on DK at least. So, but around that 20-1 range. You can also, I think, get them in a market for which division, like to make the LCS was not a bad price either on them. If we're just playing more of floor, I typically like to, play a little bit of a long shot on that market, but to reach the LCS, also plus 320 on there. 95 plus wins, I think, is probably your better price. And then, those to me are probably your like safest, sort of a little bit of a longer shot, but still going to get like a decent floor bet. And if I could find this division one, I did kind of like this one where it's like division winner and World Series winner.
That's fun.
That was a fun one. That was like 15-1 or something, which again, I like them a lot to already win this division. But then we'll see the Brewers play, and I'll probably hate myself again. So,
the Brewers ruin this for us again. I'm going to be so mad, dude. Especially now that we got CLV on them to not make the playoffs. I'm going to be so annoyed. I'm going to be so annoyed with this teteam. Benny, what are kind of the market things that you do want to back on this, and then we'll kind of wrap this up with some over under.
I think I'm already on the over on the win total 88.5. I felt like this is a team that I project 91, 92 wins fairly, in a fairly straightforward level. Like, even with injuries, I thought they showed last year that they could sustain themselves, and we've talked about the depth already. It didn't feel like there's anybody on this team that from like an awards perspective really stands out. Like, it's fun to think about if PCA puts it all together and the Bregman effect is real, then you already have the elite defense and the WAR number is just going to be off the charts. But I think he has a good year. I don't know if he has a great year, and for even somebody like Bregman, Cabrera as an NL Cy Young was kind of fun to think about, but a lot of pitchers, frankly, just a lot of Cubs players. And I'm pulling this from just watching, 162 games every year. Most of the time, not every time, but there is sort of a learning curve for playing at Wrigley and getting used to a lot more of these day games into the schedule. Like, I remember first year with Jason Hayward, it took some time. Dansby, his first year, had a good but not great year. Like, it takes a lot.
The shadows are totally different than any other
Jason
player.
Hayward. I don't think it took some time. I don't think there was enough time ever.
No, but you know what? He had one moment, and it was a fantastic moment, and everything else about Hayward at this point.
You know what? That's the thing is he gave the greatest clubhouse speech of all time apparently,
right.
And it literally won them a title. So you can't. I feel like as a Cubs fan, like literally anybody will always look at his tenure, despite the fact that he. Probably was overpaid by a significant amount compared to performance.
For sure.
And then he went to the Dodgers and he won a World Series.
Yeah.
and then I started betting his batter case. I'm over on the win total on this team. I think you're right. I think that this is the 92, 93 win team. I agree with you also on this market stuff because there isn't really.
There's a lot of good.
We talked about some long shots mid-season.
Like there just wasn't a lot of Cubs players that had like good long shot prices. Like I was trying my damnedest.
I don't want to buy high on Busch, Yeah,
and even MVP. Then like Bregman's one of the favorites in the NL for MVP already. Like he's 18-1. I'm not betting Bregman to win MVP, regardless of the fact that it's already a very short price. So like. Player-wise, I thought the market has been pretty short on them. But again, some of those different team bets, like that 95-plus win band, some of the exacta stuff, that doesn't line up with sort of what everything else is saying is that this team should win the division. They should win 90 to 92 games. They have a ton of depth. They have a lot of really good players who also are, good odds in a lot of these different RBI, home run, et cetera, types of markets. And I think if you're going to try and target them, that would be where I would want to try and play. Edward Cabrera, though, as win leader, I still like that one from preseason.
I like that one too. Michael Busch is 150-1 for NL MVP, which is a tad bit surprising.
It's a long enough number. It's hard to buy high on a guy after a breakout year who's young, because like I feel like we're not getting that. I don't mind. I guess here's what it is. Like the Bregman one I hate because
I don't like that either.
Because like basically he would have to either lead in RBIs or he's not hitting 30 home runs, and he would have to lead in RBIs, and like that probably is a bonkers number. Because he's going to have to lead some statistical category for that to work. The Busch one, I could squint and see it a little bit more. That's actually kind of an interesting bet. But then it's sort of, is that Busch's team or is it PCA's team?
Yeah, but even still, like, Busch is going to get more at bats. He's going to lead off in a lot more games. I don't think they're going to try to take him out of the lineup. Remember, Tyler Austin, who they send the offseason, is going to miss like 4 months. So that potential platoon option, I don't believe is still in play anymore either. Like he'll see plenty of pitches and leading off a game. Like we already started talking about some of these trends with some of those power guys at the top of the lineup. Like, okay, you give up a solo home run to lead off the game, but those numbers mean something too. And he was a 4.5 win player last year. And his defense is good. Like I think he's a quality defensive first baseman that I think is going to continue to get better and have good numbers, especially with the infield that surrounds him. So for 150 to 1, I don't hate it. If we're looking for like, where can we search for something?
I actually do like that.
Yeah, and I
don't have any long shot things, and I kind of
that one's interesting. I also tried to look at Ballesteros, by the way, for Rookie of the Year. His price was also terrible. It was like I think
it's like 13 to 1.
But that'll move.
Play any defense.
All that has to happen is he comes out and he's like, look, Julio Rodriguez was 1 for his first 40. I like to remind everybody that Dominguez was the short. Matt Shaw was the fave for Rookie of the Year to start the season.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
So and we convinced ourselves a lot of time like, oh, this is Matt Shaw's we're gonna get a great price on Matt Shaw, and then whatever.
Baseball happens.
So I think that there's gonna be a lot of ways to do some things and do some damage on the team. I'm going to be looking at the team more for exactas. I will definitely be doing the exactas, the chalky exact. Like for them to be, in my opinion, a chalky exact, like because we just talked about it, they are short on everything else. But and the Mariners are absolutely some chalk in the AL, and we're getting 110 to 1 for them to play each other in the World Series. I
love that. I'm gonna jot that down literally after.
I will be taking orders, and I will get us all paper tickets. I will mail it to you from Vegas, or I'll hold it and we'll just meet up and do it. But all right, CJ, bring us down, wrap us up.
All right, win total, guys. I think we've all said this already, but Ben, over on the 88.5, correct?
I am over on the 88.5.
Over. Berg, you are also over. I am over on this as well. Love a good consensus. So over on the 88.5 wins. Also, some of those other bets, like we said, Michael Busch MVP 150 to 1. That is a really, really good one.
That is actually a really interesting.
That's a really fun one, as well as the exactas. Contact us at Dad's That Bet. We'll give you Berg's number. He'll put them in for you at Circa and be your proxy just for you to get that best price.
Let's find that Bregman doubles one too. Let's
Bregman doubles.
If someone out there, someone else there has a doubles market, contact us.
Bregman doubles, 95 plus wins, and just earmark Ballesteros just in case you can get him at a good price early in the season. I try to do this as well for some of these guys that have terrible prices, especially for Rookie of the Year. When we're doing
Busch is 200 to 1 on.
Write these down on a notepad because if they have a bad April, then you're going to want to see if you can buy some equity. But we are high on this team. Yeah,
Busch appears to be 200 to 1 on FanDuel.
Oh,
so I'm gonna.
Okay.
Dude, that's Carlos
Let's go.
Style.
Let's go.
We'll talk about chasing numbers. We are doing that right now. Yeah, that is fine with that.
You knew that if I showed up today that there would be one number that we'd have to chase.
You are welcome to interrupt me as I close the podcast.
Sorry, dude. I'm sorry.
There is a much better number than 150 to 1. So
sorry. I love you.
I'm here to help people make money.
I just took it. Oh, it's being reviewed by a trader.
Oh, no.
We'll talk about it later.
If it was MGM, it would have been like 88 cents. But for Dad's Bet Baseball, again, Hall of Fame bets, make sure to use the code DADS to get 50% off your first month and 1 week free. this will wrap up another one of our team preview podcasts. We are chugging along through these. We have only got, I think, 5 or 6 teams left to go.
Single digits.
We are, we are getting to the end. But these have been so much fun to record. Just want to say thank you again, Ben. By the way, for the people, where can we find you?
Yeah, I'm on X, Instagram at Benny Heiss. Still do some betting content over at KCSN, the Kansas City Sports Network, and show up on podcasts from here and there. But to be on the Dad's Bet Baseball pod,
you'll be back. You'll be back.
Dream
for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me. This is fun.
That's what I tell my wife every night we record, Ben. I'm just living the dream. She's like, "Yep, you're sitting in your laundry room / office for 2 hours talking about baseball with dudes." Cool. Yeah. That's the dream.
I'm like,
yes, it is. Yes, it is. And getting Michael Busch at 200-1. So anyways, that will do it. Thank you guys again for listening to another episode and team preview here of Dad's Bet Baseball. And make sure to tune in. We've got a couple more of these to go.